Hey, what's up guys? Danny here. I wanted to make this video because I saw an article this morning on friend zoning and I really didn't resonate with it, and it just gave me energy and inspiration to clear up some misconceptions as I see them, because I think there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of just outdated techniques, tactics, perspectives on the attraction process in our modern world. So, so yeah, that's what this video is here for. So the article essentially said two main things that stuck with me. One was that you can't treat women like friends if you want to essentially, not be friend zoned. And it was saying that the reason you're getting friend zoned is because you're treating women like friends, right? And then this point number two was that you need to be more sexual, right? You need to be more maybe aggressive and masculine in your approach, right? To make it really clear that you mean business, that you that you're not looking to just be friends with a woman. And so yeah, I don't really agree fully with either of those points. So I think there's some truth to that. And even if there is truth to it though, I don't think it's the most empowering or practical way to frame this whole thing, because what I find is, and from my own experience when I was younger and still trying to figure this stuff out myself, is that like how someone who is struggling to attract women will likely perceive that and how they will actually take that in practically is like, okay, well then I need to stop being so friendly and I need to be more like overtly sexual in my jokes, in my words, in my tone, in my body language. Maybe I need to touch her more. I need to try to escalate the tension, and just really show her that I'm like a sexual guy. And there's just like this overcompensation that is happening that is just not the most calibrated and attuned to a woman. And that's exactly the kind of behavior that makes you come off creepy, right? And women can feel that. And so being more overtly sexual is not just gonna automatically attract women more. Excuse me. So let's take these points like one at a time. So point number one with the friends, you can totally be friends with a woman and still attract her. I've done it many times. In fact, that's primarily how I operate now. If I'm trying to attract a woman, is like I just show up platonically and friendly. Like that's really it, right? Maybe the degree of platonicness will vary, but the degree of friendliness is constant. That's like my baseline. And I still know that women are attracted to me in that state of friendliness. And it's not just something that is with me, it's something that I perceive in other guys as well. And, these guys are more rare. It takes, a lot of work to become integrated to reach this level of like being able to just show up that way. But there are those guys out there, and I've seen them, and it's really beautiful and refreshing when I can watch a man that is like just being totally friendly with a woman without using any of the dating techniques and tactics and any of that manipulation stuff and whatever. Like no game. His game is literally just being connected to his heart and just being like friendly and loving and kind. Like that's my game, right? That's like my version of game, if you even want to call it game. And it's like I see that in other guys too, and I can just watch how the women are just like attracted to that, and it's just like so relieving and refreshing to see, especially with just like how much the dating industry has like pushed and promoted this like the techniques and tactics for such a long time that like it's almost like conditioned into us that we like, whether we want to or not, we're just affected. We like receive this information and like it's affecting us. It's like warping our minds, and it's making us think that we need to show up as someone other than ourselves, that we need to show up as a certain way in order to be able to attract a certain kind of woman, when it's not the case, right? So just purely from my experience of what I've experienced myself and what I've seen with other guys, like you can totally treat a woman like a friend and she will still be attracted to you. Now, here's the caveat, right? Is that it actually doesn't really have to do with friendship or not friendship. What it really has to do with at the core is how you perceive yourself in relation to her, right? How you compare yourself in relation to her. And what I mean by that is most guys who struggle with attracting women and who struggle with getting friend zoned, the real reason is not because they're treating her like a friend, it's because they are perceiving themselves as one down to her, right? This is a concept that comes from a therapist called Terry Real, and it's basically the one up or one down. He says that in any time that we get like triggered or any time we're basically disconnected from our truest, highest selves, that we either go one up or one down to somebody else, right? And we can be like, certain people can trigger us. That's the thing. It's like we can actually be like equals most of the time, and then like a particularly attractive woman can just bring us one down, or like vice versa. It's like maybe if we meet a woman that we're not all that attracted to, then we might perceive ourselves as one up, right? And so like we both can be dysfunctional, and so it's like we have to be mindful to recognize when we're being one up or one down to somebody. But for the context of this video, I'm just going to focus on the one down because that's likely what you're experiencing in relation to an attractive woman that you're trying to court. And so if you perceive yourself fundamentally, deep down, inherently, whether it's conscious or unconscious, doesn't really matter. I mean, it's definitely unconscious. I mean, if you bring some conscious awareness to it, it's still affecting you in an unconscious way. If you perceive yourself as one down, right? In your nervous system, like your nervous system perceives yourself. I want to clarify this because you can tell yourself that, oh, I'm an equal, but like somatically, what's your experience? What's your nervous system actually feeling? Because that is more an accurate reflection of how you're showing up, not what you're telling yourself, right? And you can just say, oh yeah, I'm an equal. I do think I'm deserving of this. I do feel that, but it's like, what do you actually experience in your body, right? That's way more telling. So if your somatic experience, if your physical experience, your nervous system is perceiving yourself as one down from this woman because of her physical beauty or whatever it might be, then yeah, if you treat her like a friend, then you're not going to attract her. But it's not because of the friendship, it's because of the one downness, right? Likewise, if you do see yourself as an equal, you can treat her like a friend and still attract her. But again, it's not necessarily because of the friendship, it's because you fundamentally see yourself as equal to her, right? So like, I just want to shift our attention from the friend thing, because that's sort of like that's like down the line, downstream from what the issue actually is, which is fundamentally perceiving yourself as one down to the woman that you're engaging with and talking to and trying to court. That's the issue, right? Like, let's just focus there because that's the crux of it. Everything else kind of stems from that, right? And if you're focused on anything else other than that, you're focused on the more surface level symptoms rather than the actual crux of the problem. So before I get into like how to fix that, like let's just take that one point of the debunking that myth, I guess you could say, right? Or demystifying, how do we say this? Basically saying that like you can totally be friends with a woman and still attract her, okay? And I hope that that's like the idea that you have to treat a woman not like a friend in order to attract her. I hope that's been like, we can dispel that, okay? Let's go to point number 2, and then I'll come back to point number 1 and tell you what to do about it. So point number 2 is that you have to be like more sexual and masculine and aggressive with a woman. Now again, like that, it all depends on how you interpret that. It can be true if the way you're interpreting it is the way that I'm going to explain here in a moment, but the way you're likely interpreting that if you're struggling with this is just that like, okay, I gotta be more sexual. I gotta say more sexual innuendos. I gotta maybe look at her a certain way, give her a wink, or gotta touch her more, right? To escalate the tension and show her that I'm comfortable with touch and all of this stuff. And like, you just start getting in your head and it just becomes a performance, it's not really focused on like the core of it, and it's not coming off like in a very natural second nature way. So what actually is more important than you being overtly sexual in any way, you can attract a woman without even touching her. You can attract a woman without making a single sexual joke. You can attract a woman without teasing her. You can attract a good quality woman without doing any kind of negs or any kind of game on running any kind of game on her. Okay, like you have to really fundamentally believe that, because if you don't fundamentally believe that, then of course you're gonna like resort to these tactics and these these like tactics and these techniques and all the stuff that's out there that you guys have seen. I don't have to tell you about it. We're saturated in it. And like, I guess I'll just explain this really quick. The reason that that's the case, that there's so much of this out there, is because it actually works. Like that's the bottom line, is it actually does work to help you attract a woman. So how is that not contrary to what I'm saying? Well, it works, but here's the thing that you need to understand, is that it works within this bubble. It works within this constraint of every woman who is playing the game. So it's like, if you are showing up to play this game and you want to attract a woman that exists within this space and within this bubble of this game, then you have to play by those rules in order to attract that woman. But like, instead of teaching you how to master the game, what I'm saying is, let's shift and stop playing this game, because it's fundamentally dysfunctional and won't get you what you ultimately want in the long run, which is a long-term compatible partner that you can relax and be yourself around and feel easeful around, and not feel like you have to game every day of your life, or she's going to leave you or whatever, she's going to cheat on you or whatever. Like, it's like, if you want that, then we need to shift and play by a different game. So if what you want is in here, and you want to attract like the hottest freaking woman that's out there, who's just the baddest and like all of that, then like, yeah, you need some serious fucking game in order to be able to attract her. So if that's what you want, then like, yeah, keep doing that, right? Like, there's no judgment. Like, I was in that for a while too, so it's like, we kind of have to go through it. If you can't let it go, then you just have to move through it. You got to burn that karma. But what I'm saying is, like, let's just stop playing this game altogether. There's a different game to be played. Game B, if you will, instead of game A, right? Like, and it's a much more conscious game. And it's not even really a game. That's the beauty of it, right? I'm just calling it a game to distinguish, but the thing is, in order to, I guess it is sort of a game, because there are actually rules or principles to follow if you want to play by this other game. And it's more importantly than the rules that you have to do, it's actually the rules of what not to do, right? Like, and primarily it's not doing any of these other gamey type of stuff. Because if you bring that into this world, into this other game, then like, the women who are playing by this other game, they're gonna see that as like low status signals, because they're like, it's not even low status, it's just like they see it as immaturity. They're like, he's still trying to play that other game. He doesn't realize that we're not playing that game anymore. We don't want to be. We've been there. We're exhausted by it. We're bored of it. We're bored of those guys. Like, we want something new. We want something different. We want a more conscious, integrated guy. And so if you're using those tactics and it's working for you, then you have to understand that it's likely because you're attracting a woman that's existing within this world and this realm. Okay, this is a very, like, it's not so cut and dry like this, okay? There's like, there's in-betweens and stuff. There's overlaps between these worlds, and a woman can kind of, she can be on her growth journey moving towards this and still have some tendencies here. So don't get so caught up in thinking that it's like, it's either one or the other. I'm just separating like this for clarification, so you can see the distinction between these. All right, that was a big like segue there, but I think it was really important to paint why these techniques and stuff actually exist. There's a market for it because it actually works. It just works within this one game, okay, this one world here. And I'm encouraging us to stop playing by that game and play it by a different set of rules, which a different game that's much more easeful. So back to the point number 2 about like, you need to be sexual with a woman in order to attract her. Like, okay, yes, that's somewhat true, but what it is at the core is that it's not that you have to be more sexual, it's that you actually just have to let the sexuality that is already present, is already in you, because we're all sexual beings. You can't like hide, you can actually hide that, but like you can't hide it really like from your own body. Your body like just feels what it feels. You can suppress it, right? But it's like, it's in there. We're sexual beings. And so it's like, you actually just need to let yourself be seen and witnessed in your own vulnerable display and demonstration of longing and attraction for a woman. All right, like let that land for a second. I'm saying that again. I know it's kind of a mouthful, but really, it's not about being more sexual or more overtly sexual with a woman. It's about letting your natural sexual charge, your natural attraction and longing and desire for a woman that you find attractive. It's letting all of that stuff be witnessed and seen by the woman that you're trying to court. That's it, right? Like that's what's really needed. Now, that's not the only thing that's needed, right? That's like the foundation. What's also needed paired with that is that she also needs to feel the restraint, the containment that you have around the sexual energy and the charge within your own body, that you actually have control over it, right? Maybe control is not the best word. Containment is maybe a better word, because it's like you don't really control fire, you contain fire. It's kind of the same way. It's like you're containing it, but you have clear boundaries, internal boundaries, that you're not overrun by it, right? Because a dude who's like just coming out and being like, oh yeah, you're so sexy, baby, whatever, like, that is like a display of sexual longing, right? But that's not attractive. And the reason it's not attractive is because like women can feel the unrestrainedness. It's like this dude is essentially possessed by his own like instinctual, lustful, sexual, primal nature. And it's like that has taken over his consciousness, and he's just being run by that and driven by that, right? That's not sexy, right? At least not like in the courtship phase. In the relationship phase later, like that can be sexy in the bedroom, right? To just, for your woman, when trust has already been built, for your woman to just see you like completely just, like ravish her and all that. But that's later. That's not in this phase. In this phase, restraint is actually what is rewarded, because a woman that builds trust. A woman's like, oh, yes, this dude has both the ability to let himself be seen in his sexual desire for me, and he also has the restraint. That's sexy, because otherwise it comes off as creepy, right? It's like guys who show their intent, but without the restraint, come off as creepy, because a woman's fundamentally like, I could throw myself to this dude right now and he would just have sex with me, no questions asked. Like that's not attractive. But with a guy, like a man who has sexual restraint, she will feel that like, this guy has standards, this guy has boundaries, this guy has values, he's gauging compatibility right now. Like, yeah, he's attracted to me and he's shameless about it and he's letting himself be seen in that, but that's just because he's attracted to me doesn't mean he's going to have sex with me. And if I threw myself at him right now, I'm kind of feeling like he would actually probably think that's weird and walk away, because he has his own integrity about himself, right? That is attractive, right? It's like, damn, man, this guy has both, right? And the reason like we struggle with this is usually due to sexual shame. I mean, I've struggled with this a lot because I came from a very religious upbringing, and it was hard for me to learn how to first just accept and feel into my own body and my own sexual energy, and just accept and embrace that as part of myself, and to feel into like the sexual charge, right? And the tension that arises, and then let alone to then like let myself be seen through my eyes, right? Like that's really like the best. If you want to focus on one thing to show sexual intent, it's just your eyes. And it's not through being like this and like all like, it's just actually through the vulnerability that you're like allowing yourself to be seen. Like just it's a softening, and it's like a willingness to hold that intimate gaze and that eye contact with a woman. Like that's what's like letting her see into your world and letting her feel what you're feeling. And she needs to feel that if you want to create attraction, right? Because it's a circuit, right? It's polarity. It's the masculine and the feminine. It's the positive and the negative terminal. And like, if you're fundamentally suppressing your own sexual energy to yourself and to her, and you're not letting it just kind of arise naturally out of you and exude without you having to do or say anything. It's just a feeling, it's a vibe. She can feel it, right? That's why I say you don't need to touch her, you don't need to say anything sexual, because she will just feel it through your being, because that's what you feel. Like, you're allowing yourself to feel it, and it exudes, and then it creates a circuit, and then she starts to feel it too, and then that creates tension, right? Which is why it comes back to containment. Like, you need to you need to develop the emotional resilience to be able to hold and house that sexual tension in your nervous system. Because if it's too much for you to handle, then it'll overtake you or you'll collapse, right? And I mean, this is going into like emotional work now, so I won't go down that whole rabbit hole. Just know that like you need to learn how to contain the fire, right? But you need to let the fire be seen. You can't just keep it very stifled or very small because you're afraid you're gonna lose control, or you're afraid that somebody's gonna judge you, the woman's gonna judge you because you have fire in you. Like, right? That's old conditioning, sexual shame that needs to be reprogrammed in order for you to feel like you can show up authentically and sexually around a woman just with your vibe, just through your eyes, right? And then if you want to like play around and tease her or whatever, like, sure, that's like spices at the end, but it's not necessary if you have the crux of it. In fact, I would discourage it because oftentimes it can backfire if you're not socially calibrated. Okay, so that was point number 2. Now I'll just go back really quickly to point number 1 and explain this, like what to actually do about like getting yourself from like a 1 down position to like an equal position. Really, the best way to explain this, and it might feel a little bit weird, it might feel even like a bit gamey right now, but it's only because like if you're so fundamentally imbalanced in a 1 down position, or if you think of a pendulum, right? If you're so imbalanced towards this direction, then we might need something a bit more drastic to pull you. Like I might give you like a technique or a strategy that's like from here, not so that you actually end up here, but just so that it pulls you closer to like center, right? Because you're imbalanced. So just recognize that before I give you this technique or strategy. It's not even really technique. It's more of mindset. It's like when you go and you're talking to a woman, you want to recognize when you've been essentially compromised, when you've been put 1 down, or when you've put yourself 1 down, when you feel 1 down. So that's the first step, is just recognizing that and acknowledging it and accepting it and embracing it. That's the way that you're feeling. Even just that alone will start to shift things. Then if that doesn't shift things enough to bring you back to an equal state, okay, well then this is where you can use this tactic that I'm calling, it's just like a strategy, it's more like a mindset, right? Like of like flaw finding, all right? So you will go in an interaction with a woman that you're attracted to, where you're feeling 1 down, or any time that you're feeling 1 down, is to, what tends to happen in those moments is your consciousness gets like really put into your own mind, and you start to do this recursive thing where you're just like self-conscious, right? And like, it's as if the spotlight is on you, and it's on you, and you're just like constantly thinking about yourself and how you're like self-editing and everything, right? So it's like shifting the spotlight and putting it on her and projecting your consciousness outward, like you're forcing yourself out of your head and into the environment. Exteroception is one of the fancy ways to put it. And you're focusing and observing her. It's that mindset, first off, right? It's just that alone, like, and going into like putting your attention on her and putting the spotlight on her. And then from there, it's this idea of like looking for, you're basically like a detective, and you're trying to gather evidence to disprove the fantasy that you've built up in your mind about her. And the more you gather, the more that you can humanize her. And once you humanize her, that's what I like to call like sober point, where like you become like sober. You can actually see her for who she is and the multifaceted nature of her being, rather than as the fantasy that you built her up to be, or like, putting her on the pedestal. So you want to reach that point as quickly as possible. And you can do that by asking questions that gauge compatibility, and to get her to see like, okay, does she actually share the same values as you? right? What's her level of intelligence? What's her level of emotional intelligence? I mean, because what you're looking for is like blemishes or flaws in her physical appearance. So you can actually literally, it's like, especially if you're really physically attracted to her, find something that is not super attracted to you. Whatever it is, you can find something that's just even small. You're like, oh, well, you know, okay, she's really beautiful, but like, I don't know, like her teeth are crooked or something. Whatever, I don't know. You can find something just to humanize her, but probably even more importantly than the physical is the qualities, like the internal emotional qualities, right? So you're looking for like maybe you're listening for like a nervous giggle that she might have, right? Maybe she has a nervous tick. Maybe you can tell by the way she's talking or saying something that she's a little bit shy or insecure about herself. You can watch the way she treats other people, right? And it's like if she's treating a waiter or waitress or just other people, or she's even talking about somebody else and telling a story about somebody else. I mean, like, for example, a good like gauging compatibility question is like to actually ask about past partners and like, oh, you know, it's like, what was your ex-partner like, and you know, how did that end? You know, that can be a little like, you know, you got to calibrate, because that can be a bit much to just ask like a stranger. But if you're like further along, or especially if you're like in a first date, like that is a really valid question to ask, and it'll tell you a lot about like the way she responds and talks about her ex will tell you a lot about her own emotional intelligence, right? So if she starts talking badly about him or whatever, it's like that's one of those flaws, you know, and that can start to like humanize her and be like, oh, okay, like she's flawed, right? She's not this perfect goddess that I built up in my mind. And the quicker you can do that, like that's the faster that you can essentially then actually truly start to gauge compatibility from a place and interact with her from a place of authenticity, right? Because up until that point, everything that she's saying and doing, and that your entire experience of her is being filtered through this little funnel of this like one down perspective, right? And it's not an accurate perspective. It's a distorted perspective of reality. So yeah, so try that out. Recognize, so just to summarize it, recognize when you've been compromised, when you're one down. Push your attention outward and put the spotlight on her. That's number 2. And then flaw find, like literally look out for these things. And again, once you humanize her, then you can stop doing this. You don't need to keep doing it. But what you really need is you need to know what it feels like somatically in your body to feel. You need to know what it actually feels like to be around an attractive woman and see yourself as an equal to her. Not just as an idea, not just as a thought or a theory, but like actually physically in your body, you're feeling like, wow, okay, yeah, I get it. I get this thing that Danny was talking about, this like sober point that happens, this humanization, this bursting of my fantasy bubble and it's like, and now I can see her, I'm relating to her in a much different way, and I can feel it in my nervous system that I'm relating to her in a much more equalized way. And once you get like a few reps under your belt of that, then it becomes a lot easier to know what you're shooting for as far as like how to show up around a woman, right? Until you get that experience though, it's kind of like you don't know what it actually feels like to feel equal to an attractive woman. So this fall finding tip will help you get there. And then once you're like consistently there, you can drop that technique. It's like a crutch that you're using temporarily to create more equilibrium. Okay. All right, I'll leave it there. Thank you for sticking around to the end. If you watched the whole thing, let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Give this video a like or dislike, whatever is an authentic expression of you. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.